The Russian Ministry of Defense recently announced that over 300,000 soldiers have signed voluntary contracts to participate in what the Kremlin and state media describe as the special military operation in Ukraine. This move highlights a key shift in Russia's military approach, relying heavily on volunteer soldiers rather than large-scale conscription. Ivan Bavaltsev, head of the Russian Armed Forces Combat Training Directorate, revealed that the creation of reserve regiments, specifically designed for this purpose, has been successful. These regiments train the new recruits, who are typically civilians willing to serve for a set period, offering an alternative to compulsory service. This volunteer force is becoming an integral part of Russia's military strategy. It enables the Russian government to mobilize additional forces for the ongoing conflict in Ukraine without resorting to mass conscription, which might be seen as a politically sensitive move. Voluntary service contracts often come with terms regarding pay, benefits, and the duration of the soldier's commitment. The government's reliance on these contracts reflects a broader trend in the Russian military, one that seeks to bolster its ranks with individuals who are willing to fight for compensation rather than through mandatory service. In parallel, the situation within Ukraine's military has become more complicated. Reports have surfaced of a significant problem with desertion. In recent months, an alarming number of soldiers have fled the front lines, with some estimates suggesting that as many as 200,000 have deserted or gone AWOL. The causes behind this are multifaceted. Ukrainian soldiers, much like their Russian counterparts, are struggling with the psychological toll of a protracted and seemingly endless war. Many desertions occur after soldiers are granted medical leave or during moments of heightened battlefield stress. Entire units have reportedly withdrawn from active combat zones, contributing to significant losses for Ukraine, such as the fall of the town of Vuhledar in October 2023. The Ukrainian military leadership is acknowledging the scope of the problem, with desertion often viewed as a key obstacle to fulfilling military objectives. While some Ukrainian commanders have sought to address these issues by offering incentives to return, the psychological state of deserters complicates this effort. The war's toll on morale, combined with the lack of a clear end in sight, makes it difficult for commanders to keep their forces intact. Ukrainian officials, though recognizing the desertion issue, do not always seek punitive measures, as they are often mindful of the psychological strain their soldiers face. In this context, it is noteworthy that discussions have emerged regarding the potential for foreign volunteers or mercenaries to bolster the Ukrainian army's ranks. This topic, which has gained traction in recent weeks, involves the possibility of deploying European soldiers or private military contractors to assist Ukraine, potentially relieving some of the burden on Ukrainian forces. These talks are especially pertinent considering the debates surrounding the deployment of ground forces by NATO nations, which have fluctuated in intensity. The idea of European countries sending troops to Ukraine has become a subject of significant political debate. In particular, French President Emmanuel Macron recently suggested that sending ground troops to Ukraine could be considered, emphasizing that such a move should not be ruled out to prevent a Russian victory. His remarks have been met with mixed reactions across Europe, with many leaders rejecting the notion of directly involving their militaries in the conflict. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and Defense Minister Boris Pistorius have firmly stated that NATO should not send troops to fight against Russia in Ukraine. Similarly, leaders from Spain, Poland, and Sweden have confirmed that they have no plans to deploy troops, further solidifying the general European resistance to a direct military intervention. At the same time, there are some nations, such as Estonia, that have expressed a willingness to consider deeper military involvement, though no formal commitments have been made. The possibility of NATO's direct participation remains a delicate issue, particularly in light of Russia's warnings that such a move could lead to a direct confrontation between NATO and Russia, escalating the conflict to a catastrophic level. The broader implications of this debate go beyond mere troop deployments. NATO's involvement, or lack thereof, could shape the future trajectory of the war. For instance, a potential NATO ground intervention could shift the strategic balance in favor of Ukraine, but at the risk of triggering a larger, more devastating war. This is a concern that European leaders are wary of, and one that will undoubtedly shape their decisions in the coming months. While European governments have thus far committed to supporting Ukraine primarily through weapons supplies, training, and financial aid, the prospect of sending ground troops remains an extremely controversial and unlikely scenario at present. However, the war's ongoing nature may continue to push European nations to reconsider their positions. Whether or not NATO will be drawn further into the conflict, directly or indirectly, hinges on several factors, including the military performance of Ukrainian forces, the domestic political climate within NATO countries, and, perhaps most critically, the evolving dynamics of the conflict itself. This dynamic situation raises further questions about the future of international military alliances, the effectiveness of volunteer forces in modern warfare, and the psychological and strategic challenges faced by soldiers on both sides of the conflict. The reliance on volunteer troops, whether by Russia or potential future contributors to Ukraine's cause, is becoming increasingly central to the military strategies of both nations. The long-term sustainability of such a model is still uncertain, and the ongoing conflict will likely continue to test the resilience and adaptability of these military forces. The shifting nature of international military support for Ukraine, combined with the evolving realities of battlefield logistics and morale, will undoubtedly remain a key theme in the analysis of this war.